Welcome, everybody. I'm Jan Barlow, host of the HR Disruptor Summit and founder. And so, welcome. I'm just excited to be here with you today. This is our last of our virtual experience. We started in July of 2022 and have gone through 12 weeks of our great virtual experiences. And so, thank you to everybody who has followed us. Just can't wait for our in-person experience next week. It's going to be Wednesday through Friday. So we are going to start kicking off our in-person experience Wednesday evening here in Dallas at the Le Meridien Hotel, Dallas Galleria. And we are going to be hosting and really featuring and supporting Haley Taylor Schlitz. She is the youngest Black American to complete law school, and just so honored to have her be featured at the summit welcoming reception next week. And you can get those tickets. They're on sale. We have a few left for VIP tickets, and so we'll be able to put that link in there so you can get them if you are in the Dallas area. So next week, really Friday is the last day for registration for the in-person summit. We have tickets available. And again, those are for only 120 participants. Friday at 12 noon will be the last of registration. So hope that you will get your pass, and very excited to be featuring so many great facilitators around our agenda. So we'll be putting the link below so you can check that out as well. Today, first of all, thanks to everybody who participated in our self-awareness survey. I got to tell you, what really focused or got me to start researching more self-awareness and where that ties into traditional DEI training really started out in 2018 for me. I was part of the North Texas Diversity Council, and everyone was talking about the unconscious bias test that had been out there by, I believe it was by Harvard Business Review. So one of our board members is a trained and seasoned psychologist, and when I found out, she had taken it 5 times. I was like, wait a minute, like, why did you take it 5 times? Well, she said she didn't believe she had bias, and she didn't believe it. So it really led me to research unconscious bias, but really all DEI training. And I had experienced in 2018, I attended a diversity and inclusion training on unconscious bias. And afterwards, I just felt bad, just really felt bad. And I wanted to know more about how DEI is conducting training and just learn more about it. Like, why did I feel bad? So that really led me to research what is working, what types of training is working. So I went to really sources like Harvard Business Review, SHRM, our Society of Human Resource Studies. And unfortunately, they were showing evidence that traditional DEI training and unconscious bias training was not really being effective, like in behavior change as what we would expect. When you talk about how many millions and billions of dollars are invested in DEI training, departments, etc., I would expect, if I were a business person, I would expect it to have greater results. So that really led me to dig more into self-awareness, right? I just wanted to know why. Why isn't it working? As much money as being put into it, why isn't it working? So, and also everybody, if you want to just chime in here, please. I'm solo today, so bear with me, be patient. I'm monitoring our comments. So welcome everybody, also on Facebook and YouTube. So just feel free to chime in and comment. I wanted to know why, in my case, why did it make me feel that way? Like, why did I feel bad about myself? So that led me to really do some research, not only in psychology, but um, the brain, neurology. I wanted to know what in our brain, not only the traditional psychology of it, but what, when it comes to our emotions, what does it do to us? Like, how does the brain work when it comes to feelings? So, for anybody that knows me, I'm a quantum science geek. I didn't attend any science in school, or just really didn't interest me. But for some reason, when I got into my mid to late 20s, I was really attracted to quantum science, of all things, right? Um, so really, when I was doing my research, uh, I found so many studies just about energy, right? And us as human beings, everything is energy. So when I did a lot of research, I was finding studies from 1940s. So I wanted to share this with you because we don't really get the reasoning or the connecting the dots of our emotions, brain, psychology, and then fast forward what's in front of us. How do we perceive others? So, what I'm hoping to do is really walking you through my journey and want to connect with you. So, please feel free to write in the comments, but to connect with you more to get your feelings and similarities about this process of when we're supposed to really become more self-aware, and where does that take us when it comes to how we perceive ourselves and how we perceive others. um, there was a scientist in 1940. So he's a researcher out of Yale University, and he was studying unseen electromagnetic fields around living organisms, right? So nobody at that time in the 40s was doing any type of studies like this. So this is off the chart, right? Everybody probably looking at him like he's crazy. But he decided to use eggs. So he used a micrometer, right? A magnometer, um, that measures the energy force around eggs. He took chicken eggs. He took snake, reptile eggs, right? He took just everything, every type of animal, that type of eggs he wanted to study. So now get this, 100% of his results, that no matter what kind of egg, the positive charge was always at the head and the negative charge was always at the tail. Well, basic layman's terms is that creates, you have a negative force and a positive force, and it creates a magnet. Okay. Well, what does that? That just proves that every living thing is a magnet. It attracts things, right? So that really got me excited because I thought, well, wow, okay. And we're 65% water. So when you compare that, we're a walking around magnet and we're 65% water, what does that do, right? Can you imagine what even the universe, the moon, and everything, and how that affects us? And again, it's putting the science, it's not woo woo, right? So the more I read about this, he was talking about how this negative and positive charge, and it applies to all living things. So that got me thinking. So if we're all energy and we're made of 65% water, that means our thoughts and emotions are energy, right? Our thoughts conduct energy. So I don't know if any of you have chime in. Anybody ever read any quantum science, articles or anything? There's lots of stuff out there now. It's on YouTube. You can get some really good layman's videos on quantum science and understanding how it relates to us as human beings, our body, our brains. Anybody? Antonio, thank you. Thank you. Oh, great. You read too, Power versus Force. Excellent. Thank you. Um, so when you consider that everything is energy, um, that means thoughts have a frequency and can be measured. right? So every thought produces a chemical in your body. So if you're thinking around the subject of lack, whether that be guilt or negative emotion, your thought is producing a frequency, and that frequency is in the form of chemistry, right, in your body. So it's storing that thought and emotion in your physical body and producing feelings of emotion, of guilt, unhappiness, right? So it's this cycle. So really, when you think about it, we think of ourselves from the ego perspective. Think of yourself from a science perspective, right? So take that step back and look at yourself from a different perspective. And how are these thoughts and emotions affecting your perceptions of things, of situations, of people, right? So when I dug deep through this, our emotions, when it comes to biases, it's really about your self-awareness, and the perceptions are based on our emotions, right? So it does really, if you take out the element of race, religion, sexual orientation, you take it out and just look at the emotional side, our emotions, that puts it on a whole new level, right? So let's come back to our survey. So again, thank you everybody who participated in our survey results. We were excited because, we took really the questions. We had 4 questions, right? So I'm going to pull up this picture that we showed you in all of our posts. We put out this picture and we asked 4 questions, right? So looking at this picture, what do you perceive? So the first option was, his plight may be desperate, and it's evidence that society can't do anything about homelessness. Okay, we had 40% of people respond that's when they look at that picture, that's their perception. The second one was, the man looks tragic, friendless, and forlorn. Nobody voted for that. Perceive the man to be threatening, thinking that someone should call the police. Nobody said that. But here's the kicker. We had people that responded to the other option, and here's some of the responses. He's on break from work and helping a dog. It looks like a human sharing time with his fur friend. And another one was, yes, he does look like he's plight, but perhaps not desperate. But that he's bonding with his dog sitting outside somewhere of a building on his bag, which is on the concrete, feeding his dog. So let's talk about what that means from a measurement standpoint. Okay. So let's go back to thoughts can be measured. They have a frequency, right? So when we look at those responses, so there were 2 levels of response or emotions attached to those specific responses. So what I did was, for this survey, I took 3 or 4 types of responses that are connected to an emotion. And then I gave that as an option, right? So people went through and selected, does this response match what I feel that I'm looking at, what I perceive, right? So here are the results. So remember I said we had 60-40 split. 40% of the people said His plight may be desperate, evidence that society can't do anything about homelessness. That equates to a emotional category of hopelessness. Now, we had 60% of the people respond other and gave us their responses, right? The average, right, other was he's on a break from work, helping a dog, a human sharing time with his animal. That equates to a neutral emotional category. So really it ranges on the emotional scale of how we feel, right? So each of those categories of emotion have a frequency number connected to it. So here are the results. So the 40% that related to a description that connects to the emotion of hopelessness, guess what, gang? That self-awareness score, or that frequency of vibration of thought, equals 50. So the other one, he's on a break from work, helping a dog, right? Sharing time with his animal. That equates to a emotional category of neutral. Guess what that score is? 250. That right there shows, so it connects our perception has a frequency because it's connected to thought, right? So let's look at the numbers when it comes to two categories. You ever hear the saying, do you view the world as half empty or half full, right? Well, in the book, Power versus Force, there is a scale that pretty much shares with you the level of consciousness. So it was very revealing to see an 85 to 15% split. When we look at life, half empty or half full, right? Which equates to, do you look at it life from a victim standpoint, or do you look at life from an empowered standpoint? Victim standpoint means you don't feel in control. You feel outside forces are controlling you. You allow, it's, I always say the tail's wagging the dog, right? Or do you feel empowered? Do you feel that you are the driver of your train and you have agency over your life? Not 100%, but you at least believe, truly believe, that you can choose your emotions or your thoughts. That's what we mean by agency or empowered. So when we talk about this 85-15 split, the aha moment for me, when I look to see who we want to attract for the summit or who we want to uplift with our programs, workshops, the 85%, to find out that 85% of the world's population is in a victim mindset. So when we talk about this scale, this number scale between like this 50 and 250, so if you score anything from 0 to 200, most people, that level measurement is saying you feel in a victim mindset, right? You are in that level to where you still feel external factors are in control. People 201 and above fall in the category of empowered, right? So connect the neutral mindset of 250 of this statement, right? The perception from that picture, and then connect with the emotion or perception of the hopelessness, that's 50. So really the aha moment for me when it comes to looking at perceptions and our self-awareness, how do we perceive others, how do we perceive our environment, how do we perceive ourselves, comes down to the connection of emotion, right? Negative or positive. And then understanding that from a science perspective, it can be measured, right? It's not woo woo, it's valid science. It puts a whole new light on, wow, when we think bad thoughts about ourselves or others, negative thoughts, that's a low vibration, right? Or um, a low measurement, right? It's just a low self-awareness. When we are upbeat and more positive, that has to do with a higher level of self-awareness. And again, that number rises, right? So anybody else want to comment? We got a couple of comments here on Facebook. Okay, great. Thank you, Carla. Oh, also, okay, great. So also Carla brought up when we speak to others or when we're speaking of or about others, right? The positive and negative. Good, good. Anybody else? Great. Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point, Antonio. So, our thoughts about us, like when we are talking about how we perceive our own selves and that self talk, that lowers our vibration, right? That's really bringing us down. And again, the biggest person that you're going to listen to is that voice in your head, right? So we need to be very mindful about that. Exactly. Okay, well, so does anybody have any questions? Because really it comes down to, for the big part, to really, when we are perceiving, especially when we're talking about any type of DEI training or any type of training, or even speaking to somebody, right? When we hear negative comments about us or we're perceiving things as negative, that automatically puts us in food, water, shelter mode and gets us in defensive mode, and it shuts down our hearing. So that's why I learned, any type of change behavior doesn't work, because we can understand it, but it's not really being embraced or absorbed from a positive learning experience, right? So it doesn't matter whether we talk negatively about ourselves, whether we're talking negative about somebody else, whether our perception when we're hearing something, right? When somebody's speaking to us and we get defensive, or we're listening to something and we get defensive, our physical hearing shuts down. So what is I think what comes to mind is the big lesson: words don't teach, experience does, meaning we have to experience a positive experience, right, in order for change to happen. Although, if you put your hand on the oven, that negative experience teaches you. But really, when it comes down to change, true change behavior, especially when it comes to other human beings and about ourselves, we really need to create more positive experiences around our teachings and around traditional trainings, because it's education. It's about educating ourselves and educating others. So, anybody have any comments about that? Yes, teaching. It's two-way. Yes, definitely a two-way. It's not just about spitting out information. It's also about this true engagement. So thank you. I appreciate that. Yes. Anybody else? Well, fabulous. I will be putting out the links to this survey again. If anybody wants to take it, would love for you to participate. And I'm going to be sharing the results after this recording I'll be putting it in LinkedIn and Facebook. And also the recording will be available on YouTube. And one last thank you again for everybody who has engaged with our virtual experience. Looking forward to seeing you in our in-person experience next week. And don't forget, after the in-person experience, that's when we'll be launching the beta projects. That'll take us all the way to January. And then fast forward, we'll be revealing and publishing those white paper results in March. So I hope you'll stay with us, continue on the journey for the HR Disruptor Summit, and really look forward to more of your engagement, and hope you have a great day. Take care.